to sound really crazy. I know this sounds crazy. I saw him on the cross. I swear to God it was real.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us. We see Him attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little, God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome to episode 96 of Touched by Heaven. So, what brings you here today? Or better yet, what originally brought you to Touched by Heaven?
Miracles.
Oh, okay.
Miracles.
Yeah.
I was looking for miracles. I wanted to hear other people's stories about what God's doing in their lives. And I love to hear the stories, and I love to hear people's faith and, their love of God. And, it's awesome.
This is Tammy Foltz with today's story.
I'm just in the car. I'm going to find a nice, quiet spot to just park.
To tell the story, Tammy is getting away from the house, the kids, the dogs, all of that.
I get a little emotional in that. I know it's going to sound really vain, but I don't want people to see me bawling.
She doesn't want anyone to see her bawling. Tammy does get emotional as she tells this story. Who wouldn't get emotional? She was given this special gift, not only encountering Jesus on the cross, but the view from the cross.
It's just an amazing story of God reaching out to somebody and saying, hold on, I've got something in store for you. You just need to hold on.
Tammy grew up in a very poor family, and at age 12, she lost her dad.
And so when he died, I pretty much decided that if there was a God, he was a hateful, awful God, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And that's when my slide into a whole bunch of horrible things happened. It went on for like 4 years of just really bad things that I just don't tell people, because what's the point? Bad is bad.
What kind of bad? Bad like drugs, alcohol, alcoholism, early teens, alcoholism. Couch surfing, wherever she could lay her head at night, living on the streets, that kind of bad.
So when I turned 16, I hit my bottom with it and I got sober. So I started going to AA at the age of 16 and I stayed sober. In fact, I've never drank again.
All right, she's off the booze. She's supporting herself. She's still not good with the family. She's out there on her own. And in time, she gets her GED. Then she's off to college. Along the way, she's got a couple of kids, she's got a husband, but she's in college, she's getting degrees to the point she gets a master's and is now teaching philosophy and sociology.
Everything in my life is really good. I'm married to a man that, is a wonderful person. He was a biker when I met him. He was sober too. So, we have 4 kids together. Well, he had 1, I had 2, and we had 1 together. So we had 4 kids, and we're living the American dream and have a house and, raising our kids. And I was able to start teaching college. I'm having a great time. But the part that lingered and never went away was that I just did not like God. And I finally would admit he existed, and I would occasionally turn things over to him, but I had such a resentment toward him that I just really struggled with it. When I would hear the word Jesus, I would just get so angry. Just the name would make me so mad that I could not stand to hear anything about it.
Still, there seems to be something wrong with the fact that if you asked her kids what Easter was all about, they would say bunnies and chocolate. That bothered her. She's about education. She's about, smarts. And my kids think Easter is about, bunnies and chocolate. That's not right. They should at least have the education of what Easter is about, this story of, Jesus and resurrection and all that. They should at least know that, right?
And I thought, wow, I just did such a disservice to my children. They're so ignorant and it's just wrong. So I talked to my husband and we pulled out a newspaper and we looked through the directory until we found a church in the newspaper that met at a high school.
Now that would be perfect. It's not in a church. It's at a high school. It's in a gym. Very casual, non-denominational. That'd be a good place to have the kids experience Easter.
And within the first year, my husband got saved. And I was so mad. I was like, what the? I said, we had an agreement that we weren't going to take this serious. And
Well, wait a minute. It was strictly for the kids? It was just to
yes,
introduce them, but don't go
yeah,
getting yourself all involved with Jesus here.
right,
Okay.
right. So we'd go to church, and he got saved, and then he got really, he got in a fundamentalist kind of direction where I was no longer allowed to read anything but the Bible, and I was just really, it was over the top to me, and it was kind of oppressive to me, and this is going to sound terrible, but this is what I did. I am my part of my degrees in sociology, so I went to the church and I really started to study it. I studied the people, the music, how they spoke, how you give testimonies, how you're supposed to act. And I went and faked it for a long time because I wanted him to, be happy in our marriage, and I wanted this to work, and we were going to go every Sunday whether I liked it or not. And I did that. I
You were
faked it.
faking it for him.
And I was good at it. I taught Sunday school.
Oh, wow.
I was that good.
Yeah. But she was also noticing, too, that her husband was getting better. He was becoming a better version of himself.
He was changing. I'll give you that. He was. But I was so angry and resentful because it wasn't supposed to go like that. He was not supposed to be indoctrinated. He wasn't supposed to be sucked into it. It wasn't supposed to happen like that.
Yeah.
So this is where the story gets interesting.
Interesting what happened at an Easter service. And those are especially long services, lots of music, right? And every time there's a song, you stand up and sing. And she's got kids she's trying to take care of. And let's stand up again for another song, and song after song. And she's standing and she's thinking, do we ever get to sit down here? Then finally they say they can sit down. Okay. And here comes another song, and up she goes again.
And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And they're doing this song, Agnus Dei. I don't know if you've ever heard that by Michael W. Smith.
Agnus Dei, it's Latin. It means Lamb of God. From John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 29, John the Baptist seeing Jesus and saying, behold, the Lamb of God.
So they're doing the song, and this woman in the back row stands up and she starts signing it. And I remember watching her thinking, what? And just being I was just so fixated on her. And as the song continues, just a second. As the song continues, I know it's going to sound really crazy. I know this sounds crazy. I saw him on the cross. I swear to God it was real. And I didn't know, but I felt so alone my whole life. And when I saw him on the cross, it's when it hit me that he was all alone. And he looked at me. And he loved me. And I remember just being stunned because I just didn't know what was happening. And I was honestly shocked. And I remember thinking, he's real. He's real. And for the first time in my life, something inside of me clicked into place, and I became a whole person. And then what happened was that I couldn't tell my husband he was right. So I went home and I dropped to my knees and I said, I'm so sorry that I never believed in you and I thought you were fake and this was all a myth. And Trapper, he forgave me. He did. The part of the story I hate telling, I just hate this part of the story, was that in those college classes I would pick on those Christian kids. I would try to convince them it was a lie. Because I was smarter and I knew it was fake. And I would try to tell them, don't believe it. They're just trying to lie to you. And he loved me anyway. He did. And then afterwards, I was like, I just had to know him. I don't know if you know what that's like, but I just had to know him. And I read every word in the Bible that he said. And I just kept praying to him and asking him, to just keep revealing himself to me. And he has. And then what happened after that was that I just wanted to tell everybody that he was real. So we started looking for a way to share our faith with our friends. These are all hardened bikers. It's really hard to talk to them. They knew we got the Bible freak, the Jesus freak stuff going on, and they didn't want anything to do with us. And so we started hanging out with Christian bikers to teach how to evangelize. Because when he looked at me when he was on the cross and he loved me, I've never once thought he's not real after that. It's been 12 years and I've done everything I could to share my faith with people. Because someday I'm going to see him. And I want him to say, good and faithful servant, you have been faithful. Some people don't believe me and I don't care. I know what happened and I know I was transformed. And I know that he gave me so many chances I did not deserve. So anyway, we go out and we share our faith with bikers and we go out and do church services, and I just want people to know him.
That's gorgeous. You got we're all crying now, You got us all crying no matter where we are.
You do know that he didn't have to forgive me.
Yes, he did. That's who he is. That's who he is.
I know the weight of the gift. I know what it was worth. And I love him. I love him. So there's another part of the story that happens years later.
Can we hold off on that one for 1 second? Because I want to go back.
Yeah.
My makeup is just a mess now, by the way.
I know.
Go back to that moment, because when I think of Protestant churches, I don't think of the crucifix like in Catholic churches. So, was there a crucifix in the church?
No, there's nothing like that. I'll tell you. I don't tell many people this. It was an image.
Okay.
It was like I was standing there, and I could see him, and I felt. This is the part that's hard for people to understand. It's like I could see him, and then the perspective switched to him, and I felt his loneliness, his aloneness. That's the right word, the aloneness.
And then from and then from his perspective, looking at you, or when you said from his perspective,
it was like he was looking at the people that loved him that couldn't be with him, like they were not. It was like he could see them.
Yeah.
But he could get enough comfort from them.
Yeah, his mom was there, and John was there, and another Mary was there, and there were, others were there. But you're on a cross. Yeah.
Like he was there, away from all his family, all his friends, and he was alone. See, that's the part that was so profound for me. When I felt that, it was like he was even cut off from his father. That's what it felt like he was alone.
He was definitely cut off from his father. His father had to cut him off so that the sacrifice was complete. He couldn't have that. He could not have that connection. It's like, that'd be cheating. That would be cheating. He was completely cut off.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I share with people, I think they think it's just insane, but I swear, Trapper, this is the truth. It was like I was like transformed to that location at that time to see him. And when it happened, and I'm standing there amongst all these people, all I want to do is drop to my knees and just ask for forgiveness. But I'm surrounded by all these people. I really can't do that at the time. But it was like I was there and I saw it.
I have no
And it,
doubt that you were. I have no doubt.
so anyway, it just transformed me. It just changed everything.
How soon did you tell your husband?
Uh, it was that afternoon because I went to well, actually, I locked myself in the bathroom, which in my house is the only place you have privacy. And I fell apart because, I had known how bitter I was and how closed off. And honestly, I really did think I was such an intellectual that it was all fake. And so to have a God that you think is a myth appear and look at you like he did toward me and to feel what he felt, I just couldn't express it to my husband until that afternoon. And I was like, well, this is what happened. And he said he'd been praying so hard for me that he knew I wasn't saved. He knew. And he was just so happy.
So he basically knew you were faking it too,
Yeah, that's what he told me.
without saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he would pray every day for me. And he would ask God to please be with me and show me, the truth. So I didn't know that. And I just tried to act the best I could.
So the relationship began that day with Jesus.
Amen. Yes. Yep.
Pretty cool when you have it, isn't it? Pretty cool.
I think it had to happen that way because I had been good. I had done all the right things. It wasn't a matter of being good. It was a matter of surrender.
I like that. Can we hear that again?
It wasn't a matter of being good. It was a matter of surrender. And I don't think I just don't think it could have happened any other way. The educational variety wouldn't have worked with me. I was already educated, and I was too smart. I mean, it was just arrogance, so much arrogance. So when I meet people like me, when I'm out doing ministry, it's embarrassing. And I always feel such compassion for them because they're so smart, they don't know what they're missing, if that makes sense.
A slight little detour here years later, then we'll get back to Touched by Heaven moment number one, but it had to do with what happened outside the home of Tammy and her husband and all the kids. A little ruckus as a drunk driver drove off the road.
So it was late at night, and my dogs had like a trigger bark, like they barked at everything. It was really icy. We're in Iowa. Right now it's snowing, and it was an ice storm.
Police arrive on the scene. They arrest the guy. They take him away. Everybody back to bed. Here we go.
And I saw lights outside, and I assumed it was the tow truck. And I thought they got the truck out, and I just went to bed. So I could hear this sound out, like something outside, and I thought the drunken man had come back and was like ranting and raving about whatever. And I was getting really annoyed. And I got up, and I went out with my bare feet, and I walked outside our back door, and I was trying to figure out who was out there. I was going to yell at him to go home and shut up. That's what I was going to do. And I couldn't see anything. And I saw the tow truck up on the road, and I thought, well, maybe he's talking to the guy and the guy's yelling at him. So I went back in and went back to bed, but the sound would not stop and the dogs were not barking. And so I thought, this is really weird. And so one more time I get up. This is in this ice storm. The ice had finally stopped, and I have no shoes on, and I'm just in my pajamas, and I walk out across the grass because I'm angry. I was going to tell him, just go home and just shut up. And I walk up this small hill, and that's when I figure out that what I'm hearing is this person screaming, help me, help me. I'm stuck. Help me. And so I crossed the road, and this tow truck driver when he was trying to adjust something on the car, it came back and rolled on top of him. And he was pinned underneath this tow truck. And so I ran back to my husband and I'm like, this man is trapped under this truck and he says he's in a lot of pain. Can you help me? And so he comes out and by this time I have shoes on, we run out there and my husband runs over there and he's like, help me pick this truck up. I'm like, are you serious? There is no way we can pick this truck up. And he said, no, I want you to help me pick this truck up. So I'm on the phone with dispatch. I put the phone in my pocket on my robe and I reach down and together, I kid you not, we pick up the side of this truck so this man can slide out. Now, you tell me, how's that possible? A tow truck and a car were able to pick it up. It had to have been angelic intervention, is all I can figure. This guy's shoulder had come down and it pinned him on the ground. And remember, there's no traffic that night. There's nobody out. Nobody's doing anything because the roads are terrible and it is really cold. He would have died under that truck. And why the dogs didn't bark, all I can think is if they had barked, I would never have heard that man. Never.
In a normal situation with him yelling, they would have been barking.
Yes. Oh, yes. For sure.
And not a peep. Not a peep. Not a bark.
Not one peep. They didn't even go outside. So the long and short of it is that he came back 2 days after he got out of the hospital, and he and his wife came back and thanked us and said that, he thought for sure he was going to die. We shared our faith with them. Of course, we did. That's the truth. We said, it had to have been God. It just had to have been. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. And what he did with it, I don't know.
Well, what did he say? You're picking up a side of a truck. What did he think?
Well, first of all, he said, I thought I was going to die out there and nobody can hear me. And when you came out, I was relieved that somebody heard me. But when my husband said, help me pick this truck up, I think he couldn't even think past the pain because, it had taken his arm up above his head and had crushed it backwards so that basically he was pinned to the ground by his shoulder and his arm and he couldn't move. It was I think the axle or something. It was like a part of the metal part.
Okay.
I'm not a mechanic. My husband is. And so, he knows mechanical stuff. And so it was the metal part had come sliding back down on top of him and pinned him. And I think for him, it was like this feeling of, just he was desperate.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, my husband and I are like, after the adrenaline rush and it's all over and we're thinking back on it and we're trying to pinpoint was God's hand in this. And it was just so obvious that it was, God was there. Now, was it for his faith purposes, this man that we helped, or was it for our own? I don't know.
Well, it worked for all. And for his wife too. It's stunning.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody.
Yeah.
And the dogs are now going to church. So look, you got everything going for you.
Yeah, the dogs are going to church. The dogs are going to church. No, I don't think so. We go out and we share the ministry with bikers, and it's just a really fascinating life God has given us. Really.
What great experiences. What amazing experiences, Tammy. What amazing experiences.
Yeah. I don't know if you can use any of this, but I just got to tell you that
I got nothing to edit out. I'm just going to let this go. It's just all great in itself.
Yeah. God is amazing.
Tell me about Jesus. Who is he?
Who's Jesus to me?
Who is he? For those who, this is their very first time they've ever stumbled upon this Touched by Heaven crazy podcast where people share encounter stories. So he showed himself to you. He showed himself to you from the viewpoint of the cross because he knew that would be the most effective for you.
Right.
And it begins. The relationship begins.
Yeah.
Who have you found along the way?
I have found somebody that loves me so deeply that I just want to honor him. And when I think about him, it surpasses like the image. It's like I can feel him. when I'm talking to him, and I can feel his presence. And when my father died, I think what died inside of me was the feeling of being loved. And when he looked at me, it was with such compassion and love that I think that when I talk to him today and when I pray to him, it's like it's not like he's my father. It's more of like he knows me so deeply that I don't really have to express much, and he just really is close to me, and he's always with me. I don't know how to explain it to people. That relationship with them, I just wanted to continue to grow and build and get to know them. Because when you love somebody, you just want to get to know them more, and you just want to, my husband, I want to know what he liked to eat. With Jesus, I want to know, what is it that makes you happy? What is it that pleases you? What is it that you would have me do? And so it has just transformed everything. It made me soft. And it ruined my job, by the way. It really did.
Did it?
Well, in one way, because in one way I didn't really strive anymore. I was like, well, I can get my doctorate if I want or not, but I don't know if it really matters, because, I just want to love the students and reach them where they're at. And it has made me such a much better professor with the students, because I care about them. I care about who they are and where they're at in their lives, and if they're struggling, can I help them? And I see them as people. Maybe that was the biggest change. God, Jesus showed me people. Showed me the love for people.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
This podcast is so important that you're doing. It really is. I share it with people all the time, and I tell them, you have to listen to this. You won't believe how much God loves us and is reaching out to us. Exactly what you say. He's trying to show his hand so that, that people can see, that he's real, that he loves us when we're unlovable. He loves us when we don't deserve it, and he loves us when we don't love ourselves, and he just loves us. So I became a Patreon, and I was like, okay, when he says my name in a podcast, I'll know I'm supposed to call, right? That's how in my mind I had it set up. And so every week I'd listen, he never said my name. And I'm walking my dogs and I'm listening to your podcast, and I didn't hear it audibly, but I hear the Holy Spirit say, no, I want you to do it now. And I'm like, but he didn't say my name. pretty
And I'd like to announce our Patreon shout out this show. Tammy Foltz, ladies and gentlemen, is helping us out on a monthly basis through Patreon. If you want to go to episode whatever this is, or just go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack, and you too can join Tammy and others who are helping us keep this thing together. So I don't know if you know her or not, but she's pretty terrific. Thanks, Tammy. Now, this is where the podcast was going to end. I was just going to package it like this, then I find out there's a postscript. I've told you before how music bubbles up in my head seemingly out of nowhere, but we know where that nowhere is and from where. And usually it has something to do with a podcast or a talk I'm going to give, and it's for the podcast. Actually, sometimes it's personal. In this case, the personal crosses over into the podcast, and I'm supposed to share this with you. Okay. Songs just flooded in this week. Just flooded in as I was putting together this episode. And it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I got dad music. I got, the music your dad liked or granddad liked. The dad music was this. I was hearing Tony Bennett's I Left My Heart in San Francisco. What the heck is that? Well, I went to broadcasting school in San Francisco when I was 18. Next song, Frank Sinatra. It Was a Very Good Year. You know that song? It's a great song. It starts out, when I was 17, it was a very good year. Okay, so, and it goes through his, different stages of his life. But at 17, it has to do with the young love in his life. And it's like, okay, I got an 18-year-old song, I got a 17-year-old song. Next song, Johnny Mathis. Wonderful, Wonderful. And that's from like 57. It's a great song, by the way. It's sweet, it's young love, it's It's that feeling you had when you first fell in love. It's that walk along the beach holding hands with somebody. It's that first kiss. It's falling in love, those feelings you have when you first started feeling that the hormones were kicking in, that feeling. Okay, so what is this? I didn't date in high school. What is this? Where is this going? Next song. It's from The Sound of Music. It's when the guy's singing to the girl, you were 16 going on 17. I'm going, my God, what is this? You know? And I'm going, and I went, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Barb Brannon? Is this about Barb Brannon? Okay, and this has something to do with you too. This isn't just me. This has something to do with you and what we just heard with Tammy. Last summer, I interviewed somebody for the podcast. They were on the episode, and there was a part that didn't air on the episode because she has some special gifts and special connections to heaven and angels and all this. And I'm not going to say who it was. The bottom line, as we were talking off air, she starts talking about, they're telling me that you have a decision remorse from when you were 17 years old. She's giving me this last summer sometime. You have a decision remorse. I said, what decision remorse? She says, yeah, something you made a decision back when you were they're telling me when you were 17, and that you're not a cold person, but you could have appeared cold, something you did. Anyway, she said that you're going to be clearing this up. You're going to be clearing this up. I'm just letting you know you're going to be clearing up this decision remorse. And I'm telling you, these words are bouncing off my head when she's telling me this. What I think it might have meant, it has nothing to do with where my mind was going, and it didn't land until this week, this decision remorse. And then it's like, is that what she's talking about? Decision remorse, a decision I made when I was 17? What decision? I'm telling you, this has something to do with you. When I was high school was very difficult for me. I was locked up. I was just so painfully shy, so painfully bashful, so painfully intimidated by high school and students around me. I joined nothing. I reached out to no one. I was locked up. All I wanted to do was get through high school so I could go into radio. Ironically, when I could get rid of the bashfulness and be here behind a microphone. But there was one girl, Barb Brannon, who senior year, she sat next to me in study hall, and she was so sweet and funny and smart, so cute, and for some reason she liked me. She liked this guy who was all locked up, and what she did, though, she unlocked me a little bit. As I sat there next to her, she would find out who I was inside, and she found me funny and entertaining and whatever she found me. And for lack of a better term, she loved me. And I loved her, but very quietly. It hadn't blossomed into the Johnny Mathis song or anything. We weren't going out, and I was so locked up, I didn't know what to do with her, I think. And I think at some point she just found me impenetrable, that cold exterior that it was just the painfully shy guy that had a lot of stuff inside but just wouldn't let it out. And I think she got tired of knocking on the door, and she left, basically. She left, and it was like it just ended. I think she just got tired of knocking on the door, and I just wouldn't open up to the extent she thought. And she was, as I look back on this decision remorse I'm being led to, this 17-year-old senior before broadcasting school, here's what I'm being led to today. Tammy, at age 12, had something happen to her that took her down a course. And Jesus saw that, and that he wasn't going to let that stand. Our God is a merciful God. He's going to come back around again. He's going to offer himself to us throughout our lives to help redirect back to where we should be, and all that. So, and he gave Tammy something very powerful there, right? Well, there are also those cases, as Jesus looks at us, as we carry our crosses, as you carry your cross, he also sees not only what has happened in our lives, but what could have happened. Maybe what should have happened. What should have happened in my life is that God gave me a gift in Barb Brannon. He gave me this gift to unlock me, and I didn't allow it to happen. What would have happened, what I truly believe what was supposed to happen, for lack of a better term, supposed to get involved with Barb Brannon. She was supposed to be my first love. I was supposed to experience the Johnny Mathis song with Barb, and I didn't let it happen. Through her, I was going to find out what unconditional love looked like, felt like, and in return, I would have found out how I had a safe place to let myself out, to also unconditionally love. She was supposed to be this wonderful gift. And I don't mean I was supposed to settle down with her, get married. I think she was this little gift in time that was to unlock me for later. But instead, I stayed locked up. And decades passed, and I remained locked up. And it took a lot of grinding decades and people and my wife and the kids and people and friends I've met along the way who have helped me unlock that person. Am I who I would have been had the unlocking happened at 17? I don't know. Did I get there eventually, finally? Or would I be further along? I can't answer that. All I know is that it didn't happen when it could have, and Jesus sees that. He sees in our lives those times when the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, when if this had happened, not just your decision, but other people's decisions too, who you could be, who you will be, by the way. If you pick up that cross that you're carrying and just follow Christ, he promises us, the Bible says so, he promises us a time when our minds are perfected and our new bodies are perfected, and we are Christ-like, literally like Christ, but with our own personalities. There will be that time. He sees that person. He sees who you are, who ultimately who you will be. He sees us and understands us like nobody else can. He sees us and he loves us. He just loves us so much. He sees us where we are through all the decisions. He sees us where we could be, will be, should be. He sees every possible thing that could have changed where we are now and the kind of person we are. He takes everything into account and loves us. And he wants you to know that he takes that 12-year-old girl and what happened and her dad and her reaction to God, and he says, I will not leave that alone. I'm going to come back around, and I'm going to help you get to where you need to be, and I hope you accept me. And he's come back around to me through others. He's brought me to perhaps where I would have been. He knows who you are. He knows who I am. And that's what I'm supposed to tell you. It would have been a lot easier if Barb Brannon and I, it just would have been a lot easier. So there's my decision remorse I didn't even know I had until this week. And maybe you have some of your own. Maybe there's one you actually do know where you go, boy, if I woulda, coulda. Know that God doesn't leave you alone. He comes back around and he keeps offering himself. And the answer is Jesus. The answer is in Jesus Christ, looking down at us from the cross saying, I love you. I know you better than anybody. And I love you. Okay? Okay. That's it. Thank you for making us a 5-star podcast. If there's a place to rate and review in this episode, please do so. With comments or ratings, however. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for everything and sharing these episodes. And I will see you next week with another story. Do you have one? Get a hold of me at touchedbyheaven.net, and I'll see you there. This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.